In this video, we're going to take a look at this common design of hand grinder that is available on Amazon and other places, and look at the features of it that make it have an inconsistent grind and a cheap way to fix them. So if you saw the last video, you saw that I did a grind and it actually looked pretty good, but the problem is now I'm actually able to see this next one is not going to be good at all because the burr has gotten off center from its counterpart on the interior of the grinder. And you can see that if I look down here, you can see there's a big gap here. And so larger pieces of bean will be able to get out there. And if I rotate this 180 degrees, it's relatively tight in here. So this whole burr has shifted this direction here. And now it's walking as it grinds, and that leads to inconsistent grind particle size. It's an easy fix. I'm going to push this down and unscrew the little thumb wheel here. There's a spring in here. Inside of the burr, there's a plastic insert, which is what the drive shaft grabs onto and turns. There's a retainer nut here, which you may have to rotate to pull it out. A little spring. There's a little plastic nut inside of here. And again, I've had 3 of these. They all have the exact same construction. I'm not sure whose original design it was. Here's the drive shaft. That's going to come out, and you'll have to rotate it to line up the flange here with a slit in the housing that you can see right there, I hope. So that's the whole thing. The play in the system comes from the wiggle room with the drive shaft here. That's exaggerated because its other retainer nut isn't in place. But also there is significant play between the burr and the plastic insert that is used to drive the whole burr assembly. So the drive shaft spins and turns this, but the burr can walk around on that, and we're going to remove that excess jiggling. The way you get this insert out is to push these sides together and then just pop it out. This one was really tight, so I ended up actually just getting a box cutter and just cutting off the pieces at the very end, just shaving it down a little bit so you can see instead of being round, it's kind of square at the end here. And that was what I had to do to be able to get this whole thing out. So now I can push it together, push those ends together, and just push out, and this whole thing comes. The way we're going to fix all of these wobblings is with a $10 O-ring kit from Amazon. I wasn't sure what the sizes were. This one had lots of different sizes, so I knew I was going to find what I needed somewhere. It was 10 bucks, which is almost as much as the grinder, but there's so many O-rings in here, you could service a lot of these and have a little cottage industry if you wanted to. So I think this 8 by 2 millimeter O-ring here is the one that works with this insert for the burr, but we can test it. You want it to be able to be snug but go back on there. If you need some help rotating that, you can put the drive shaft in. Actually, so I think that's too tight. So I'm going to go with the 7 millimeter. And I think that's going to work better. So this is a 7 by 2 millimeter O-ring. I'm going to put 2 on. Then when you put this insert back into the burr, there's a cross piece here, this horizontal piece. Let me try to get the light right here. Then you just have to line up with one of the axes of this plus sign. So just, again, press it until these top parts come out again. And that is step 1. For step 2, we're going to put O-rings around the drive shaft itself, and I believe the 6x2 millimeter O-ring is the one that fits, if I remember correctly. So the idea is when we have this O-ring around the drive shaft, that's going to make it snug within this black cylindrical housing running down the middle here, and it's not going to be able to walk against the inside because this is going to keep pressure on there. Unfortunately, it's a little bit harder to do this one because this top retaining washer is glued in. You could pry it off, or you could just do what I did and put the drive shaft through. Whoa, put the drive shaft through, flip it over, roll the O-rings on, put on this retainer, and then pull the drive shaft or push it from the top back in, and it will sort of suck the O-rings into the interior. So once you have the 2 O-rings on the drive shaft and the 2 O-rings back on your burr, you can put the whole thing back together in the reverse order that you took it apart, and you'll see that everything is very stable. I'll show you in the next video. Okay, this one had a particular bonus issue, which I hadn't seen before, which is that this captive burr slides around. So a little bit of tinkering, and I realized that the whole assembly here comes out, and it's got this little notch index right here, which has to align with a notch on the inside here, which is hard to see, which keeps the whole thing from rotating. But this burr just sits here, so I just grabbed the biggest O-ring, which is going to be a tight squeeze, but I think I can get it around here. You can just kind of roll it on. There we go. Okay, so got my gasket around there. I'm going to drop it back into here. Again, it's indexed on these 3 little divots, so it fits in there. And already I can feel this isn't going to move anymore. Again, this little keyway needs to be lined up with a keyway on the inside of the metal part, so it may take some rotating. But now it's back and it's not moving at all. So I'm going to put this back together again. We're going to put this retainer nut on, the spring, sorry, it was a washer, a spring, then this retaining washer. And my burr, and we'll be back in business. Okay, so I got Humpty Dumpty back together again, and let's check out the grind size and consistency. So this is pretty uniform. Not bad for a few cents worth of O-rings. Not sure how well this will translate to video, but here's the new grind. You can see some chaff in there, but it's pretty uniform. This was before the modification. A couple of these bigger pieces squeak through the burrs.